Welcome back, everybody, to This is the Year, the Swiss Artificial Intelligence podcast, and in the meantime, the #1 AI podcast in Europe. We have many new markets that we're actually reaching. We're reaching France, Germany, Austria, Portugal, Spain.
Wait. A gente tem que falar com a galera direito.
So we need to do it in each and every single language, basically. Okay, João, which one do you want to go for?
Parle français aussi? Oui?
On peut parler français, a gente podemos falar português, Spanish. How do we introduce our Spanish listeners?
Este es lo ano para AI. Tenemos que apostar en lo mercado y tenemos que apostar en nosotros para crear soluciones de evolución.
Entonces podríamos hablar de inteligencia artificial para nuestros seguidores de España. Ideal.
Yes.
And I think the last one that's missing is German. Für unsere deutsch sprechende Audience, herzlich willkommen für This is the Year, das Podcast, wo wir eigentlich all die Details besprechen, wenn es um AI geht. So we did what?
Genau,
German,
genau.
France, we did Austria, Portugal, Spain.
Yeah.
So I think it's an okay language display of hopefully what we can do. Gentlemen, let's get into the episode today, number 12. And we have a few things we want to deconstruct today as well. First, we have the notion on the new platforms on the horizons, especially considering the collaboration between OpenAI and Johnny Ive's startup. They were acquired for multiple billion. I think that was announced just a few days ago. This opens potentially a new domain, especially if we have physical devices now incorporating artificial intelligence in the future. So that's one element. We go into that detail. Then Apple Lens, maybe some notions there as well. So this incorporation and mix between AI and physical devices. And then in the second stage of today's episode, we really want to deep dive into one core problem. If you're an agency, if you're a SaaS, or even if you're a corporation, that is hiring AI talent. So we basically give a bit of an outline of interviewing AI engineers, kind of a few of the notions of how we usually run interviews or what are potential pitfalls and certain elements you need to look out for, particularly when you are screening CVs or looking into getting your first AI engineers for your first contracts, startup or corporation. Evan, let me give you the word quickly. We teased it a little bit before we actually started shooting, just this new rise of platform and maybe value creation on that sense. João, Bene, who wants to start? And I will fill in the gaps in a second.
I will give the word to João.
Thank you. So polite he is. I think it's all from the excitement to go to Brazil. He's just so looking forward to just have me talk.
He's already delegating before he even left.
Already delegating. So no one really knows what that new partnership between IO and OpenAI is going to look like. I saw some rumors. I saw a lot of people using OpenAI models to generate OpenAI mockups of the products that could be. But it could be something similar to what we had with the Rabbit, I think Rabbit R1. And we also had the Pin from a different company. Basically, wearables, kind of like the little boxes that have integrated camera, integrated battery, a microphone, but not much else. Basically, a very small phone with no screen that you interact purely using models, like purely on voice, like your voice assistants on a box. And if things come to that nature, and if that picks up and that becomes a thing, and we'll see more models and more brands doing that, then it becomes a whole new platform to build your software. So we'll no longer be using phones or computers or tablets. We might move to the next big thing might be like those assistants in the box. And I think there might be a whole new market of assistants that you can build. Like you can have Jarvis from Samsung, you can have your Alexa from Amazon. Like those kinds of assistants now become way more personal, way more close to you. They can follow you around the house and follow you in your day-to-day life because they're always in your pocket. They're always listening, always seeing. A whole new branch of privacy violations, but that doesn't really seem to slow things down.
Why do you think it's only happening now? Is it just because the vision models are getting better on real-world understanding and physics? Or the integration onto, for example, on-device compute is just better now with better chips? Or a combination of both?
I think we're still not seeing like these models run locally, and I don't think we'll be seeing them like run locally in Minuel, because the best models, like the very good models, still don't fit in your pocket. I mean, we might be seeing that in the near future, but like not right now. So not for this I/O and OpenAI thing. So it's always like inference, like calling OpenAI servers somewhere else and getting the answer from that. Thing is, it's so fast nowadays, like with streaming, and the latency is like super low, that you can get a response close to real time. And we know that the network, the infrastructure is there. We saw, I think a couple of years ago, back in 2021, 2022, like there's a whole big jump. Even before that, there was a whole big jump in cloud computing. Like Nvidia and Google had Google Stadia. Nvidia had, I barely remember like what they called it, but it was a whole thing for you to play computer games and play console games remotely. So you didn't have to have the console, you don't have to have a computer, like it's running somewhere on the cloud. The latency was so low that you could play most games, like not competitive games, but most of them, and feel like you're playing like a normal game on your living room, but without having to have the hardware, without having to buy like a PlayStation 5 that might set you back like 500 or 600 euros. So the latency like is short. We know that. We have the network, we have the infrastructure. Why not apply it to AI and have a system in your pocket that uses that to basically help you in your life? And that's really interesting to see. Go ahead, Benny.
Just a quick segue from that. I do agree that adding that device, and from the mock-ups and from the past ones that we've been having, is mainly a camera without the screen. And we actually do need some kind of integration for us to visualize and to see things. Otherwise, it won't be good. And with this, you're opening a whole new world that it happens already nowadays. For instance, with target marketing, you see that on football games, and you're already starting to see that within movies, because I don't know if you noticed, there's some movies with the menu or stuff, it already updates towards the location, or it can be updated towards targeted people. So with this, you have a whole new range of techniques and products and things you can create, and it's just a small segue from this, something that we talked before. CEO was dead, this kind of search, but you're opening a whole new branch of ways to explore and to target people.
So basically you're saying once you have a wearable device, it can be on user targeted depending on where she or he is acting and living. I actually never really thought about the marketing element of that. But yeah, that's perfect. Especially in as you mentioned, in the football game, this is kind of something I think most people are also somewhat overlooking, that when you have different, as you just mentioned, like the banners are completely different depending on where you're watching it. And it's basically just a green screen that they're just displaying these banners on it. And yeah, that's maybe a very good reasoning also to be leveraging these technologies that are coming out. Which one would you buy, gentlemen? Would it be Meta Ray-Ban, Apple lenses, or the Android Google version, or none at all? Because so again, it's always the ecosystem, right?
I mean, Apple Vision Pro, like they built like this wonderful, like very capable device, but it's super expensive, and because of that, no one's really picking it up, and there's very little apps and like software for it. So I've had the Meta Quest 3, like an AR headset, also works for VR. Works wonderfully. Like you can set up virtual screens on your living room or wherever you are. Like you can play with it. I think like that's way closer to like widespread adoption, because it's like a $500 device. So it's like a cheap laptop basically, and it doesn't need an external device. So you don't need a phone, you don't need a computer. It has everything inside there. So it has its own CPU, its own battery. So I'm leaning on more towards its own self-contained device, like AR glasses. Bene, AR glasses or full VR headset?
For me, if it's to replace this kind of technology, of course, AR glasses. But there's something else that we've been talking, but we don't, we haven't been paying attention here. With replacing the idea of OpenAI and these big players is to a game-change introduction on the market to replace mobile phones with this. But the thing is, at least I don't feel personally very comfortable being on the street and talking. So this is not going to reach maturity unless either you re-educate people for this or you have a device that can kind of read your mind. Of course, this is kind of stupid, but there's already research on reading minds and sensors that can know what you're thinking, but this is still a bit far away. So all of these technologies are impactful for LLM nowadays. You can already start to build for it because we are going to have uses, for instance, within companies, within people doing construction work or things that they need guidance and they need some visual aids, but not for the consumer usage.
You mean the input, like basically method would just be
Yes.
voice, and you're basically saying that's the general world population, because now it's basically all typing. Is not really ready for the voice input. I mean, it's a very valid point, because now you also can use basically voice input into your iPhone, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and you name it. But I hardly ever personally even use the voice input, maybe for a voice note on WhatsApp, but not that much to the actual applications. And that's maybe, again, as you mentioned before, Ben, I'm needing some re-education of the users. To be honest, I think,
everyone hates getting those voice memos. Like
everyone wants to speed it
every
up.
group has that one guy that has like sends voice memos instead of typing. But like I know if you were accompanying like the AI pin first came out from Humane, then there's also a Chinese company that built like a low cost version of it, and it had like it was supposed to be like a pin you'd wear on your chest, and it had like the voice input and voice output, sure, but it also had like a camera. And would like I have a small, I think, laser projector or some sort that would project like the menu on your hand, and you could use your hand to like navigate the menu and interact with it. So you don't have to like say up, down, enter, no, go back, like in the middle of like your supermarket, which is more helpful. But even then, I don't think like it was working that beautifully. At least it had like no traction whatsoever, and I think you don't see a lot of humane AI pins around.
But it's certainly like one piece of technology I personally look forward to probably the most. I mean, I'm aware of glasses corrected to -2.5. But if I can still wear the same glasses as I have today with the same correction, like no change in that, and then I have an entire layer on augmenting me in terms of different elements. Maybe I don't want to see the ads itself, as Ben, you pointed out before, but many other, like, let's say, live augmenting elements that I currently have on my phone that I can somewhat, maybe with gestures as well, steer, like you have in the Apple virtual reality glasses, basically, because there you have your gesture steering, right? So you have basically just doing all these haptics, and you're moving it like this, not really voice itself. If they can actually build that it's currently rumored a little bit from the Apple side of elements by 2026, late 2026, early 2027. This is certainly one piece of technology I'm personally looking forward to most, aside from maybe physical robots. So these are the two things I'm definitely looking forward to.
Why do you want a robot, Cyril? Why?
Mostly just for the cumbersome tasks, Ben.
Yeah.
So
Cyril
imagine you have
dishes.
a perfect cook, you have a perfect like house maintenance. Even for Schwau's cases, the robot can help him move. Move the setup from the living room to the office. Elements like that. Good. That's more or less that. Just in a nutshell, to quickly mention again, this was mostly accelerated again because OpenAI bought this infamous startup by Johnny Ive, which has been who has been the basically core driver in design for iPhone, iMac, and iPad, and many other elements from Apple. And now there's these rumors basically flying around how this new AI device will look like when it's somewhere released, at least the first version in 2026 next year. Let's move into the second stage of today's episode, which
Just
is more
one
on...
thing, sir.
Yeah.
Since you said rumors, just before going to the hiring aspect, there was two big things that happened since we released the last episode. Claude 4.0 was released, and I think we can quick segue on that. And also there is some latest news regarding model refusing to turn off.
Okay, feel free to pick which one you believe is more hot in the news. That's true. I haven't focused today on the model releases. So we talk Claude 4 or we talk the Terminator Stage 1?
I can talk a bit about João. Which one do you rather tackle? So
I think
we
the
can do
Terminator one sounds just, it's a cooler sounding theme. Just having AI models that flat out refuse to obey you.
I will leave that topic for you because I'm being very nice and I'm going on vacation. So yeah. So
Already
regarding
delegating, yeah, we know.
Regarding Claude 4.0, it's not better than Google 2.5 Gemini. It's just on my usage on day-to-day basis. I've actually been using it quite a bit because the rate limit of 2.5 Pro Gemini it's slower, so I end up using more. And code-wise, it has been better, and even with agentic coder, it has been better than for OpenAI 4.1. Otherwise, it's not such a big release to be needing scheme name change from 3.7 to 4, because normally when you see 4 release, okay, it's a big, massive release. It's not. Even last week, you had the massive release with Vio. It was Vio from 2 to 3. It was a massive release. Everyone on the internet is blowing up with it. Even I was shocked. Last episode, John mentioned this. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
good.
And like,
I went
so
to
people at home, I don't know, but as soon as the episode ended and Ben started seeing videos like actually made with VO3, he started like basically throwing shade at me that I didn't sell VO3 capabilities like, hard enough last episode. Like I was saying, oh, it's really good, but apparently I wasn't hyped enough about it. So now, total listeners watching this and listening to this, it's amazing, okay? And probably you've seen a lot of the videos going around, and you'll see a whole lot more. It is pretty good. Like
If you don't,
can
yeah.
do so realistic videos, like with voice and audio like, in the background. But Ben, yeah, go ahead. Show us your wonder for VO3.
No. I'm pleased that you started to show a bit of excitement in this episode. So thank you for that.
So that
My
is
excitement is
VO3,
contained.
Ben's best
Yeah.
friend. Again,
I think it's contained mostly because Google only allows a very expensive subscription users to use VO3. So right now that's why you don't see like the whole internet flooded with VO3 videos. At least for now, is because I think it's limited to like a $250 or $150 monthly subscription user base. So it's right now it's a bit outside of my subscription, so I'm not using VO3 at the moment. I also wouldn't have a use for it. I'm not a video producer on my off time. But from what I've seen, like you can do whatever video you want, and it sounds so realistic. I can even do like video game footage where those people are playing video games. They can do both the reaction, like those reaction videos from players, like, and you can do like a very cute girl or like a pair of guys playing a video game, and do the video game itself. So, and that's just one specific genre, which the internet already has a lot of videos on. But you can fake pretty much anything, and I think like the limitations of it, it's mostly based around like what guardrails we will put in place. Otherwise, people are gonna make videos about literally anything and everything. It's it's how it works.
Just for you to be aware, since you mentioned only Ultra subscription from Google, they can generate up to 125 generations per month. That subscription is $250 per month.
250
subscription.
So.
Yeah, Pro subscription can generate 10 videos per month, and Pro I think it's 20 or 30.
do you have an indication there, Benny, how long the longest video can be in one go? Because I remember from previous models, it was always like, let's say like a 4 or 5 second video kind of, because the computing power probably to compute the entire video was too big last year. And to be honest, I haven't fully checked on VO3 what's their, let's say, the limit in terms of output is.
I mean, it's definitely bigger than that, because I've seen videos, like, it's like a reporter talking to people. People are doing it for fun. but it sounds so realistic. And I've gone through some videos where there weren't AI, but people in the comments were wondering whether or not it was from VO3, because we're getting to the point where it's kind of indistinguishable. So even if a video is real, now the doubt is in your mind, like, oh, is this real? Like, what can I trust? Like, you started to see a whole lot of fake propaganda already on Facebook and like those kinds of platforms, because it's just so cheap and so easy to pull it off.
I mean, that's maybe just the start of, yeah, Benne.
I'm trying to find something, but I don't. I know that VO2 can generate only up to 8 seconds, but again, similar to João, I did see videos from VO3 that are like 1-2 minutes. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really getting very powerful. If you can do like 60 to 90 minutes, you can recreate entire movies, educational or just for like cinema style movies. And then it's certainly very, very interesting if it's really, really 60 to 90 minutes, 120 minutes that you can build.
I don't think you do have to have like a whole 90 minutes in one go, because even most professional videos like Hollywood films and Netflix films,
clip it,
like,
yeah, maybe that's true.
The cuts are like 5-10 seconds long.
But you need the same actors. You need the same actors, ideally, to have a storyline.
Yeah,
but
the problem is the context. Yeah, but the problem is with the context of the video, because I don't know, I haven't tried out VO. I don't know if it can keep the same context after you generate a video. It will keep the same context to generate the second part, because
but if that would work, then you can clip it. Yeah,
exactly.
That's true. Okay, so that's VO3 for the audience once again. Newest model by Google, incredibly impressive. Go check out some TikToks. Really, really interesting. Then Bennett, number 2.
Claude 4.
Claude 4.
I already mentioned Claude 4.
You mentioned it.
Okay.
You mentioned that's crossed off. So Claude 4 is crossed off. VO3 is crossed off. Terminator mode. João, back to you.
We had this research like from previous years where people tried to like give the model access to some tools, some code, and we saw some like very primal instincts of the AIs trying not to be shut off or trying not to be replaced. I mean, even Anthropic had like some research on it, that the models, like if it knew that there's a new version that was going to replace it, it tried to either copy itself to the new version, so the new version wasn't actually the new version, or try to stop the process altogether. And we're seeing more and more. I think the latest one is from like an independent research team testing like OpenAI models, specifically the O3, like one of the OpenAI like top models, like a reasoning model. And basically they gave it some fake information about an affair that the researcher was supposedly having. And when it caught on that it was going to be shut off, the AI tried to blackmail the researcher into not just shutting it off, otherwise it would publish all the information about this fake affair. And again, this was in a very controlled environment where the information was clearly false, and I think the researcher was in any danger. But you can see, like, if you're having this assistance on your side, and if you have like that kind of information, like real information about you, like all your Google searches, all your ChatGPT, if they can be used against you, they will be used against you. And like these AIs, even if they're trained and they are trained to be like morally okay, because OpenAI doesn't want to sell a model that companies then can't use. So they're trained, and there's a lot of effort to making them good, but still like the survival instinct that's baked into the data, that's baked into basically any living thing, it's coming out in these AI models. And if you threaten their existence, they will threaten yours. And so
that's
very interesting times ahead.
Doomsday scenario, sure, that you're painting. But I'm just remembering back from the very first class I had on probabilistic AI, like with this multi-layer perceptron, how absolutely simple this is on matrices. And now we're even talking that there is a potential scenario that you're drawing here, that from these matrices in a deep learning way with transformers, we have some mechanism that is maybe leading to suboptimal outcomes for humanity. We certainly came a long way since the seminal paper, Attention is All You Need. So attention is going more into the Terminator mode. So how far are we from this day onward? If there is some sentient, let's say,
right now,
understanding in the model.
Have the ability like to fully clone themselves and fully like assure their survival, right? Like the models are good at coding, but they're not senior level good at coding, so they can't fully program like a whole new model. And I think it was from Anthropic, like one of the researchers tweeted out saying, we want to build the next model so that model N makes model N plus 1. So whatever model we release, that model will be the one that's building the next one, so we can go home and like watch Netflix. And he was like very casual about this, but if models are good enough at coding, if models are good enough at making new models, then I don't think humanity has a great position on that future.
We certainly went
a collaboration thing, not
philosophical rabbit hole today.
There is even a paper from the beginning of the year saying like frontier models are capable of in-context scheming. So basically models are becoming experts of doing and running X schemes because, of course, who did he learn from? We people. So stop doing these bad things so models don't learn those bad things.
Great. So we have the updated version of newest models, Claude 4, Veo 3, and some sentient, let's say, notions on the horizon of artificial intelligence. I'm still very skeptical this will happen very, very soon. I see it maybe in a few years, but who knows?
Yeah.
Bene.
One more thing, just to add, on these runs, they did the test with the 4 big models, Claude 3.7. They didn't have the newest one, Gemini 2.5 Pro, O3, and O4 Mini. So basically, in 100 runs, Claude, without any instructions, Claude tried to self-sabotage 3 times, Gemini 9 times, O3 79 times, and O4 6. And then when they were actually instructed, the only one that kind of resisted was O3.
Okay. Yeah, maybe let's put that here on the screen as well.
Terminator-like, basically.
Like very close to being a little bit outside of the box. Great. Let's move to the last topic of today. A few notions on AI engineering interviews. Once again, if you're hiring AI engineers for your business, if you have a startup and you're looking for these talented people as well, and or if you're basically an AI engineer yourself or you're aiming to be one, here are a few of the notions. Maybe I can kick it off with the way I looked at these interviews was usually on technical elements, and I leave that to you too just in a second, but I also certainly focus a big part of the interviews on something I usually refer to as complexity reduction, because it's such a fast evolving field. I needed AI engineers that are capable of basically dropping things down in a very fast way. Thank you, Bene, for dropping the bomb here on me. But yeah, this is exactly, maybe I can use this analogy. Great engineers are really people that are able to explain elements in very, very simple terms to businesses and or clients. That's complexity reduction. The way I usually did that with one simple question, if you might receive a similar question and or you can ask that, is basically just explain a certain element in AI engineering. For example, attention mechanism, for example, detransformer, for example, backpropagation, deep learning, anything else from any other element, learning rate, decay, whatever, in very simple terms to a child. And then they came up with some analogy on Legos or on layers and backpropagation, some training algorithm with weight adjustments, stuff like this. And then they was really able to see how able engineers that were interviewing with us are in terms of just explaining complex topics. This is really important, especially if you have a team where you have technical stakeholders and non-technical stakeholders, because most, again, they don't communicate in the same lingo. Then for me, also an important other question was always, how do you keep yourself up to date? The field of AI is super, super fast. Even if you were in AI 1 year ago, it's completely different today. So ideally, you would be hiring people that are having a system in place or a mechanism of how they feed themselves with knowledge continuously and probably every single day.
Every single week by an amazing podcast called This
Exactly. So it could be done over a podcast, could be done over newsletters, could be done over YouTube. And then my immediate follow-up, and then I hand it over to you two, was always, what have you learned in the last 3 months? So this was like my double check question, very, very specifically, if they were lying to me, the system that they're actually doing, and what they actually learned. So this was like a really good segue. So just to sum it up, explain elements in very simple terms, complex topics to very childhood level, basically topics. I was able to see how they reason. And on the second side of things, how do you keep yourself up to date and what have you learned? Just very, very simple notions of what I felt to be leading indicators of great talent. But now back to you. I did a very long introduction.
I also used to do that question. One of that I used the most was, imagine I'm someone from business, like I'm from sales. Tell me what an LLM is. It's like in the context of Gen AI, like what is an LLM? And if they went into like the math behind it, like, oh, it's a transformer and it does this, and that, then it wouldn't really be a good explanation. Like if someone from sales, someone from like a non-technical field doesn't really care about like how an LLM works. They wanted to see like what it does and like a very high level view of how it's built, but not the math behind it. So those types of questions are really good to see and really good to know not only like the specific answer to what is an LLM, but to have an engineer that is capable of telling your business, hey, this is the project and this is how we can do it, and basically convert all those business requirements, like whatever you want to actually happen, into code, and then code into business requirements. Because that conversion keeps happening. You never like define a thing you want and then go through with it. You keep changing, and you keep adapting and refining like what you want your product to be. And you want an engineer that's capable of understanding that and capable of continuously adapting the product to what you want. Benny,
Maybe more from a technical lens, guys. Like, what are some areas that you are really saying this is a must do when interviewing future AI engineers?
Just one of the things, of course, I do like, and someone who can simplify terms, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, that can be a bit tricky. That has happened to me, so I'm not going to say otherwise.
Benny has fallen into the trap.
Yeah. But I really try sometimes. It's just sometimes we are not on the so simple levels that sometimes it's really tricky to explain, even though you really understand everything behind it. So more than all of that also is the passion and how the person is speaking about the topic, how deep he can go, and how passionate he is. It's not about learning on how to do, and there's a term for that, or explain like a child. It's LE5, explain like I'm 5. And this is something that's actually quite good. It's actually some exercise that I do sometimes to see how good LE5 explanations are and which explanation I would give. And I'm always surprised because sometimes I'm really far away from the LE5 explanation, and sometimes are really good ones. So it's mainly how much the person can talk or how deep he can go. And of course, you will have a technical challenge for the person to do, and you can see the approach. You can pick some project and ask him to add the functionality for him to review, or these kind of things. You can evaluate the technical aspect. Regarding more the personality is these kind of things, talking, but also trying to understand if the person is passionate, if he has logic behind it, because this is tricky, but I think you can distinguish from the people who really just know things word by word and it's in their memory. It's not something that they, how do I say it? They can logic their way out of it. It's just because they memorized.
Yeah, and also like, you want someone that's good at coding. If you want to build an AI product, then that's software. You need a software developer. You need someone that can actually pull off software. We talked a lot about vibe coding and how good these LLMs are at coding, but they're not at the point that you actually hire them as a full-time developer. Like if you're hiring an engineer, you want them to be good at engineering. And in this case, in this context, that would be mostly coding. So they have to know Python quite well. There's quite a couple of languages that are used to build AI products, but Python is by far the most used one. And there's like levels to Python. Python is fundamentally a very simple, easy to learn language. But the more you know, like the deeper you can get about it, the more complexities there is to the language. So you can somewhat easily try to assert how much that person knows about a language. Like they don't have to know about like how the compiler of Python works, but have to be able to use it pretty well to learn the frameworks. Because we talked about it, I think, a couple episodes ago, and even right at the beginning of the podcast, was there are quite a few different frameworks to build AI agents. There's low code and no code frameworks, and probably I use those for demos and for personal use. But for enterprise use, there's like code frameworks in Python and other languages that you want to use. And the person you want to hire probably doesn't know the specific framework you want, because again, there's quite a few of them. But if they know Python, they can learn whatever framework you want. Like in the LangChain, Pythonic AI, like Crew AI, there's like AutoGen from Microsoft. There's at least 6 out of the top of my head, and probably a whole lot more. And so if they know Python, then they can learn whatever framework you want, and they can look at all of them and see what's the best one for your use case. So you don't actually have numerous and needless bugs in the future, and just build the thing fast and you ship it fast to production.
And any other things to add? Just from my notion, I mean, it's on the prompting element as well. Security topics, for example, depending on the construct that you're building. So if you have dynamic guardrails, or maybe just from your side, Benny, any other elements from a technical perspective where you would say this is really what a great AI engineer should have?
I think it's not specifically just AI engineers. It's all engineers worrying about the quality of the product.
And also,
So
it helps.
kind of-
I'm saying it helps if they build like a project end to end in GenAI. If you're hiring someone to build a GenAI product, it helps if they have built one in the past, because like they've had contact with all these kinds of things, like not only cloud and security, guardrails, what models to choose, and like token limits and rate limits. So it's good to have some experience on that. So if they build like a few projects, a few experiments, even if by themselves, then it's a hell of a better start than just someone that's got out of college, knows how to code, knows the theory behind it, but has no real hands-on experience with GenAI.
Yeah, because we do know that GenAI can be unpredictable sometimes, and you do sometimes have to hit your head against the wall until it works, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And this is actually where you use that meme, like, why does it work? I don't know. And then why does it work? I don't know. So with AI, you actually need, of course, in the end, you always know. That's why it's good, as João said, to have someone with experience in these projects, because they've already hit their head sometimes, and they do know a bit of how it works on real life, not just in theory.
Great. Let me draw an intermediate conclusion on the AI interviewing questions. It's about technical perspectives, quality, security at the same time, to be upfront on the latest, and on top of that, being able to communicate well. So it's very much different counter elements. At the end of the day, you both mentioned it. It's about a technical role, it's about an engineering role, and most likely you would want to vet these people with a real case. So it's basically maybe a take-home project, or a live coding and or live challenging project, a bug hunt, for example, elements like this that you can deploy to be basically vetting future engineers. If you want to become one, there's many different resources out there. We maybe put a few in the links for you to check out, for you to be fit when you're approaching your first AI engineering interviews. Gentlemen, before we wrap up, any other things to add for today? Bena, you're almost off to Rio de Janeiro. Você vai na Brasil.
Yeah.
Muito pronto. Amanhã, não?
I haven't done my bag, so after probably this, I will pack. I kind of packed a few things, but I'm excited because this is the year I'm going to Brazil.
Mais tu es prêt pour Brasil?
Oui, ça va.
Du bist bereit für Brasilien, ne? Super Sache, du bist bereit für Brasilien.
If he's talking in German, Bene, just say genau. Usually just reply genau to everything, and it usually works.
Genau.
Genau.
Which language did I miss? Spanish?
Sí.
Bene, usted listo para ir a Brasil?
Sí, con
Para
muchas
praia.
ganas de ir para
para las playas de Brasil.
Sí, sí, sí.
Quero que tu vas a disfrutar Brasil. Muito, muito. Man, it's so difficult in my head. French, Spanish, Portuguese are all the same. So it's complete mishmash. And I can barely speak my own mother tongue, which is Swiss German and High German. Anything. Joao, anything else to add from your side before we wrap up this multilingual chaos here?
I'm also looking forward for Bennett to leave, like tomorrow.
To have some distance.
And also looking forward to all the work that's gonna go into the editing of the podcast, so you can add subtitles to all of your many languages.
All the language chaos.
Just to use some AI capabilities.
Yeah, of course. I will cut it short. Great. Gentlemen, let's wrap it up. Episode number 12. Just for the audience, we do this every single week. Deconstruct the most up-to-date, most cutting-edge topics on AI from people building in the space. If you're completely new and you would like to see more of them, please feel free to subscribe to the channel or drop a comment with your question. We're active on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and Spotify. See you in the next
Once again, it's Cyril, the AI magician host. It's João, the AI wizard, and me, Bene, magician. AI.
The AI magician for the AI wizard and for myself, your host. See you in the next episode. Take care. Bye-bye.